Hello everybody, welcome to Story Time at the Milledgeville Public Library of Illinois. The story we have for you today is about the importance of helping with the work. This is the story of how the camel got his hump. Once, long ago, when the world was new, all of the animals helped their friend man to make the world better. The horse carried man as he rode about checking the fields and making sure that things were working the way they should be. The dog fetched and carried wood and other things for the man, helping him out so that he didn't have to look for all of the firewood that he needed. The ox helped him to plow the fields so that they could plant the wonderful grains and things that we needed to eat. But there was one animal who would not help. He was the camel. He was out in the desert at an oasis, and all he would do was stand and admire his reflection in a pool of water all day long. He admired his nice, long, straight neck, and his long, straight legs, and his long, straight back. And when any of the other animals tried to talk to them, the camel was rather rude. The only thing he would say to them was, "Hump!" And that was it. Well, one day, Horse decided it was about time that the camel helped out. He was rather being lazy and not helping everyone else, and it was making things harder. And so he trotted out to the oasis in the desert, and he said, "Camel, you should come and help us. Come ride with us. Let the man ride on your back. It's nice and straight. It would work wonderfully." The camel simply said, "Humph," and went back to admiring himself in the pool of water. Well, the horse trotted back to the man's house, and he told his friends, the dog and the ox, about what had happened. And the dog said, "Well, I'll go out and talk to him. He'll certainly want to come and help fetch and carry." And so he trotted up to the camel with a stick in his mouth, and he dropped the stick, and he said, "Camel, camel, you should come help me fetch and carry. It's so much fun, and we get to help the man with it." The camel turned away from the dog and looked at himself in the pool of water again and said, "Humph." Well, the dog was a bit put out at that. He picked up his stick and he trotted back to the farm, and he told the horse and the ox what had happened. Well, the ox decided he was going to try his hand at going and speaking. And so the next day he went and he spoke to the camel out in the oasis, and he said, "Camel, we need help. You should come and help me plow the fields. It's good work and it helps out everyone." But the camel, he only stared at himself in the pool of water a bit more and said, "Humph." And so the ox trotted back to the farm, and he reported to the other animals what had happened. Well, by this time, it had been 3 days. The horse went the first day, the dog went the second day, the ox went the third day, and that night the man got together with the animals and he said, "You know, the camel isn't doing any work, and unfortunately that means the rest of you are going to have to work harder." Well, the other 3 animals had already been working very hard, and now they weren't going to have any time to rest and to sleep. They would have to sleep for just a few hours every night. It was not fair, and it was not good, and they were rather angry. So they all got together, and they were trying to decide what to do, when suddenly a cloud of sand came whooshing and swooshing up and swirled in the air and then settled itself. And there in front of them was the djinn of all the deserts. And that was the way the djinn liked to travel. He whooshed and he swooshed about, and because there was a lot of sand, it sort of followed him in a cloud until he stopped for a bit. Well, he stopped and he looked at them and he said, "You animals do not look happy. What is wrong?" For you see, the jinn was in charge of all of the deserts and all of the animals that worked there. And since these animals worked right on the edge of the desert, he thought he might be able to help a bit. And he said, "What is wrong?" And they said, "There is an animal. Jinn of all the deserts, is it right for any animal to be lazy and to not help when the world is so new and needs so much work?" And the jinn of all the deserts said, "It is certainly not. Is there an animal that is being this lazy?" And they said, "Yes, there is an animal. It is a camel. It is out in the desert at the oasis, and all he does all day long is stare at his reflection in the water." "Really?" said the jinn of the desert. "Now that is not good. What does he say? Have you asked him why he does this?" And they said, "Well, all he will say is, 'Humph!' He will not say anything more." "Well," said the jinn of the deserts, "this is not good, and I will have to go and speak to that animal in the morning." And so in the morning, as the camel was admiring his long straight back and his long straight legs and his long straight neck in the water, suddenly there was a whoosh and a swoosh and a swirl of dust and sand. And there in front of him was the jinn of all the deserts. Well, the camel, secretly, he was rather impressed by this mode of travel, but he had a reputation to maintain, so all he said was, "Humph." And the jinn of all the deserts looked at the camel and he said, "Camel, you are causing more work for the other animals. This is not good. You need to help and do your part. The other animals are growing very tired. You need to work, camel. Why aren't you working?" But all the camel would say was, "Humph." "Camel, it is not good that you are not working. You must work. You must help the others," said the jinn of all the deserts. But all the camel would say was, "Humph." Well, the jinn of all the deserts looked at the camel and he said, "Camel, you should not use that word so much. You will regret it if you use it again." But the camel didn't believe the jinn of all the deserts, and so all he said was, "Humph." And so the jinn of all the deserts looked at the camel, and he began working a great magic. And suddenly, the camel's nice straight back wasn't so straight anymore. It was growing and growing and growing, and suddenly there was a great lolloping bulge on the back of the camel's nice straight back. And the camel said, "Oh dear!" That was the first time anyone had heard him say anything other than "Humph." And the jinn of all the desert said, "Now, camel, you no longer have a nice straight back. Now, you need to go help. You owe the other animals 3 days worth of work. You need to go help with the work now." And the camel said, But how am I supposed to work with this great lolloping hump on my back?" And the jinn of all the desert said, "Yes, you have a hump on your back, and it is because of the hump on your back that you will be able to work those extra 3 days. For you see, that hump on your back holds enough food and water for 3 days. And so for 3 days you will not need to eat or drink, and you will be able to pay back the work that you did not do when the earth was brand new. So you must go now and help the horse to carry the man, and help the dog to fetch and carry, and help the ox to plow the fields, so that you can make up those 3 days worth of work that you did not do." And so the camel sighed, but he went to the farm and he started to help with the work. And from that day to this, every camel has carried a hump on his back. But so that we do not hurt their feelings too badly, we call them humps now. But the camel has never managed to make up those 3 days of work that he missed at the beginning of the world. And you know, he never really learned how to behave politely either. And that is the story of how the camel got his hump. I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you again on Wednesday at 3 p.m. when we will have a new story for you from the Milledgeville Public Library of Illinois. Have a great day, everybody. Bye.